We're at 1 o'clock. Item B is the approval of today's agenda. So it's pages 1 to 2. Motion as second. Okay, moved by Director Clark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Parks. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. At this point on item C, we're going to go into closed session at 1:01. Discuss a personnel appointment of CEO and there's the closed session.
Since you got it.
Does the board have?
Yeah, so in closed session, the board discussed the appointment of CEO. No action was taken, no other items were discussed.
Thank you. Item E is public comment. Is there any public comment today? Okay, hearing none. Item F is the approval of Mr. Lovrich's employment agreement. The board was given a handout of this.
So you have a contract. It's an at-will contract, but it's a 4-year term because under the local healthcare district law, maximum term you can enter into a contract with the CEO is 4 years. And as a side note, the only employee you can have a contract with is the CEO. All others hold employment by statute. So the agreement lays out the terms and conditions and scope of services for the CEO. It lays out the compensation and the benefits. One of the things that we need to finalize, because we cannot discuss this in closed session, is the compensation portion of the contract. So you will note that the starting salary is $275,000 a year. Currently, John is $222,000, so it's about a 23% increase. It's fairly consistent with market rate, though there are some districts that are much higher. And then there are some districts that don't have hospitals or SNFs, but may run ambulance services or other types that are lower. But 275 is starting, seems to be within market range. John would get the standard benefits that all other employees get. The vacation needs to be finalized, whether or not it will just be at the standard accrual, whether or not the CEO will have a fixed number of PTO days set by the board. As you know, the general employee, general staff accrue PTO. With the CEO, sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's fixed amount the board and the CEO agree to. And then the other thing is that John would be CEO effective September 1, 2025. So if you have any questions about the contract,
He's a salary. So
he will be a
paid time off.
salaried employee.
Paid time off. He gets paid if he's off or not. So what?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can get it to where we can actually subtract from his salary if he goes over a certain amount of days.
So the Fair Labor Standard Act, which is the federal law that governs most of the employment for your employees, does allow you to deduct under certain circumstances. So it would depend, and I worked with the HR department to come up with the matrix for when that happens. But generally, executive PTO is intended as time for them to get away, to recharge, to not have to worry about what's going on at the facility, just like any other employee who gets vacation pay. So whether they're salaried or not, you have many salaried employees who have PTO as well.
What about vacation?
But PTO includes vacation
Okay.
here in the district. It's vacation, sick, personal days.
Well, and
All
what
wrapped
we're
into
paying him, we couldn't afford to pay him to take off.
So you're not,
It's not additional pay. He's gonna get the same amount all the entire year.
so he would get the same paid holidays, PTO, whatever is agreed to by
It's just that
six of you.
he can't get carried away and take off 6 months at a time.
And if he does, that's where the at-will term kicks in and you say, this is not acceptable.
Right, how
to the
the
board.
others.
Yes, or it can be like me where I'm maxed out on PTO and I'm just losing my PTO and I can't take any time.
So the question is, do you want to just stick with the standard accrual or do you want to set a fixed amount of time?
What is the standard? I don't even know what the standard accrual is.
Standard accrual is based on years of service. There's 3 different tiers, 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10, and 10, where you kind of max out. And it's a little bit higher for the exempt employees than it is for non-exempt employees. But
7 hours of pay period?
it's about, I think it might be a little bit more, but I'll look it up really quick.
I think it's 22 days.
I think it's 7.76 per pay period for starting.
For the 0 to 5.
It's about 5 weeks.
Mine was accrual, based on accruals from work.
Always
So
done
it's in the
accrual
low tier,
because
then you
that's how our
work up
system is
based
set
on
up.
the length of stay.
We should do the standard, right? I mean, because we can get rid of them if we don't perform and it's not working.
It's like, this is so obvious.
I mean,
You're consistent.
Your turn.
is it time to make a motion to accept the contract?
We still have need to know the number of hours for PTO.
So
Okay.
do you want to do the standard
The standard,
accrual rate?
standard dictates-
I think would be fair on everyone.
has its own dictation.
So what I will do is in section 4.3, I will change the wording to reflect the board's decision or agreement with John to do the standard accrual rate. And then I'll revise the contract. I will include in the recitals, the skilled nursing facility as part of the definition of district. I'll change hospital to district. Start date of September 1st for compensation. Now that we're discussing this in open session, I will do standard accrual rate for 4.3. And if the board is okay with the other compensation and benefit terms, I will revise that agreement. I will email it to Heidi tomorrow, and then we can get everyone to sign it.
Could you add, you're doing the skilled nursing, could you add
Yes.
pharmacy also?
Is pharmacy a distinct?
No, it's just a.
I'm not talking about the.
No, that's just the department of the hospital. They're not financial statements. They're consolidated.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got a separate license, of course, because they're a pharmacy, but they're
Right,
still
right.
part of the hospital.
Well, skilled nursing is too then.
Well, that's how we're making it part of the district instead of hospital.
Right. It says
Yeah,
the
it's
word
a department of the
differently.
hospital. They're licensed differently, but they're still department of the hospital. It's
So
like-
you gotta agree to that.
I'm going to do all facilities and services provided by the
Yeah,
district.
yeah.
Okay,
Right. And I'm going to change it from hospital to district.
Yeah.
So that's all clear.
can I make a motion to, subject to your changes?
What about the 13?
Oh, all right. So there is a severance section in here. And, oh, no. This isn't, I'm sorry. This isn't, if you get fired, you get paid. This is if a court finds part of this to be illegal, then the rest stays the same. That illegal provision is severed.
Good try, though.
So it's called severance or integration.
I got
It's one or the other. So, but if you wanted to discuss severance, because
Sure.
that's part of your compensation package, that has not been discussed.
Yeah, I would like to see performance before I even discuss that myself personally. How he performs, if he does good, maybe next year we could talk about it or the year after. Right now,
Can we do that, like add an amendment later on, or?
yeah, that's what they did with Tim.
Yeah, so with Tim, they did a severance agreement 2 years after he started. So generally, I see a couple type of severance agreements. One is when you have a long-term employee that you put in place after a certain amount of time as a benefit. The other, and this happens with public agencies primarily, and I've written a few of these, is where there's a lot of turnover on the board, and there's a lot of, the board does not get along. And so someone comes into an administrator, GM, CEO, and there's uncertainty regarding the duration of their employment. So they say, I'll accept the job, but if I'm terminated within 6 months or a year, 2 years, then you have to pay me the severance package.
But the district has had some issues where we've had CEOs like Bob Knight or Pam Ott who were forced to resign, and we just paid them off on their contract. Is that how we? Well, they got severance. No, Bob Knight got severance. I think Pam Ott got severance.
I do not recall Pam getting any severance, but I was not.
Yeah, it was minimal.
And
I just want a little protection as
Graham?
well.
Understood. Yeah.
Wait, Gene's talking to me. I'm
Well,
not-
we need protection too.
I understand.
You stand on your own 2 feet, you need to perform or you're out and you get nothing. That's the way it should be.
Well, most contracts have some type of
After
severance
you,
protection.
after
Because if you throw me out,
show us that you can do it.
I'll show you I can do it.
I believe you will, absolutely, categorically. I know
You
you
know,
can.
he keeps saying it. He keeps saying,
He's talking about both.
So the question for the board is, do you want to reconsider it at a later date, or do you want to?
Yeah, right,
do it
consider it
today?
next year. And first thing.
and maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know how you guys feel, we were talking about goals, maybe that could be a component of
I think
that.
it's all complaint to part of the package on performance.
I do too.
Okay. Yeah. Are you comfortable with that, John?
I would prefer 3 months or something, just a little bit of protection. Because I'm coming up here giving up, what I'm giving up, but
You're getting all this though.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, right.
I just think it's standard for a contract. I'm not asking for anything extraordinary.
How about 3 months if he gets fired, if he quits, nothing?
That's what I would think.
So usually these severance agreements are defined so that if he leaves voluntarily, he doesn't get anything. If he's fired for cause, he doesn't get anything, and cause would be defined in the agreement. But if you just let him go, which is what we see with these public agency contracts, because there's turnover on the board, you get new directors, they want to bring in their own person, they fire someone who just took the job.
Yeah.
Right, and then they're left, and they're like, well, I want some security. So if you terminated him without cause, then the severance, whatever that amount is, would be paid out.
Okay.
What do you think, Gene?
I think that he's gonna perform. I don't think it's gonna be a factor. I think we should add the 3 months because if he quits, he gets nothing.
Fair.
He quits on his own.
But
Right.
that's, I mean, that could be changed.
Yeah, so I'll add a provision to the contract that allows severance if he's terminated without cause, that he gets 3 months pay.
Yeah.
And then if at one point in time, when you start discussing performance metrics and all of that, you want to change it, then we would just do an amendment to the contract. Okay.
I prove myself. I don't.
I have no issue.
So there was a motion by Director Parks to approve the contract pending the changes that Scott is going to do. Is there second by Director Park? Is there any further discussion on John's contract appointment?
I've never heard from you about the compensation. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Is there any input from the public? Once, twice, okay. Is there a motion to approve Mr. Lovrich's employment contract?
I thought we had a motion.
I mean, I'm sorry, call for the vote, I'm sorry. Thank you for the point of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you, John, for
Thank you.
coming on board.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the opportunity. I
Welcome.
appreciate it.
So one final housekeeping item, we have prepared a press release. And we just need to put in the transition date of Tim's last day being August 31st, John's first full day being September 1st. We can send that to you so you can review it, and then Heidi can get that out, or whoever does the press releases for the hospital can send it out at the end of the day today or tomorrow morning. And it's just a draft. Whatever changes anyone wants to make, they can make.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Do you need a motion for that?
No, I just wanted you to know that that will be coming your way for you to review.
Is there gonna be a retirement party?
So that is something for the board to talk about. If you want to have a.
We probably can't do it in Paradise Cove because of conflict of interest.
As long as the bar's open.
Is there a retirement party for the board or for the CEO?
Both.
How many years ago did you retire?
Okay. Moving on the agenda, item G is the approval of the minutes from the last building and planning meeting on May 27th. That's on pages 3 and 4.
Motion to approve.
Second, motion by Director Elliott, second by Director Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay, Bob, the floor is all yours, sir, with the project update.
Okay,
Page 5 is his report.
yeah. So as in the written report, that, you know, I have some additional information from the written report that was sent it out. I can't spell county. Down there, first thing
Could be.
I was typing really fast that day because Heidi says, I need it before you leave. No, I made the mistake. Anyway, so obviously we're waiting on Kern County. The last word we got from the girl that we're working at, or lady we're working with there, is that we should be going before the Board of Supervisors July 5th, somewhere around the 5th.
Yeah, the 12th or somewhere in there.
There's two possible dates in July, one towards the beginning and one towards the middle of July, where they will vote as to whether they will submit for us. And then once that happens, then it's a simple matter. We've already put the whole application together, the lady at the county and I. All she has to do is hit send and it goes to Cal OES. And then we can get Haggerty going on pushing it through. So
Are we gonna be present at the,
we have at the last times. Yes, we go to the meeting in case there's any questions, et cetera. We're sitting in the audience.
It's probably July 15th because that's a Tuesday. That's the
Yeah,
day.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and it's either the week before or the 15th.
Okay, so
But anyway, they said there's two possible dates.
Okay.
That they're shooting for having us on the agenda. So
how does our guy, what's his name? Supervisor,
Peters,
how does he feel about it? Is he pushing it or just?
I have no idea. I'm not in touch with Peters. But he's one of the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
So
Yeah,
he-
they've approved it twice before.
Twice before,
Same,
yeah.
same exact thing,
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
I don't know if they didn't.
yeah.
Well, it's in their best interest to do it because it's one of their hospitals in the county, that
Didn't
they can help with. And it's really very little work because first they were concerned about how much work were they going to have to do. No, what they have to do is push send. And it's all defined in the documents that everything else is handled by us.
But we'll be there to talk just in case they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
If the award is
You're not
granted,
going.
Bob, if the award is granted by the state, does the money go to the county or come directly to the district?
So the way it works is it doesn't go to either. So what happens is we start the construction project, we pay the contractors, and we submit our invoices, our paid
So we're just submitting
invoices.
claims to them?
And we submit claims and they respond with their 75%
They'll reimburse us.
directly to reimburse,
Directly, but not the county.
not the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was one of the county's questions. Do they have to handle all that? It's like, no, it's handled directly with.
Okay.
So how quickly
With the
they say it's
sub-applicant.
after we submit the invoices?
I have been awarded 2 FEMA grants. I have never done a FEMA grant, so I have no idea. We did do a grant with the state of California when we put our chiller system in. And if I remember right, I think it took 3 months to get our money back.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lag.
Yeah. So,
Got the money to float it right now.
yeah, at the moment.
Yeah.
That's so, yeah, so that's how the process
Okay.
works. Yeah. It'd be nice if they were just handed us a big old check, but it doesn't work that way. Yeah. All right, so, I'm gonna save the administration building because it's a separate line item for retail pharmacy. So we'll discuss that and get to that. On the generator project, actually at 1:00 today, the contractor and the subcontractor were meeting with some people trying to finalize the drawings to be submitted for the bracing in the chiller room. It's just, they've turned this little molehill into a mountain with welded braces and all sorts of stuff, but they're trying to get that worked out so we can get it submitted to HCI, get it approved, and then any additional work that has to be done will be done. So waiting on that drawing, which according to him, they were going to finalize at 1:00 today. And as soon as it gets to the architect will submit it to HCI. Shouldn't take but a week or two to get hopefully approved. And then they can proceed with the work. And that's the last step other than the final change order, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. All right, so the NPC seismic upgrade of dietary surgery central plan. So where we're at on that is the HCI has tentatively blessed our initial submittal. So we have to have working drawings of the actual work to be done January 1st of 2026. So, but backing up from that, if we don't proceed with the seismic project, then we won't waste a dime on doing these NPC upgrades, because why would we upgrade the new buildings to meet SB 1953 if we can't do the acute care hospital? So the reality is, I mean, obviously we're going to have to draw these drawings and stuff and get them submitted.
In the architect.
But obviously we wouldn't proceed with the work. I'll get into the cost here shortly. Because if we're not going to do the master seismic project, then why do the initial other upgrades? That's what it really boils down to. So as far as what we'll have, they're finalizing their estimates for drawing these final plans for the actual construction work. But it is estimated that the drawings will cost $24,000 for all the new buildings for the NPC upgrades. And then it is estimated that the actual work, which our numbers are a year or so old, but the actual work of all the fire sprinkler upgrades and bracing of systems and stuff will be about $275,000. So we're looking at the NPC upgrade running approximately $300,000 total costs for bracing. Then the other piece of the NPC 5 is the having water for 92 hours, 96 hours. And we're going around on different options. We had actually originally submitted the possibility of a well across the street for the tank and treatment and come across and make a tie-in. And having some discussions with Scott Kissick. He's got a perfectly good well sitting right over there by the ball field. And he says, it's yours. So all we would have to do is set a separate tank for dedicated water to the hospital, install a small treatment plant for the minimum treatment of chlorine and whatever we have to inject, bring a pipe across the street and isolating valves to tie in. And we would have to set a generator there so that we could power it in an emergency situation with no electricity. Still cheaper than trying to do it over here from scratch with a whole brand new well.
This is potable water here, wasn't it? That
Well,
that's
the reason his water over there is not potable is just because it's not treated. Because
it was over here, correct?
well, what we were going to put in here would be treated.
Right.
But what we would do is we would set a separate tank for the hospital with a little treatment plant attached.
Yeah.
And then that water would be brought over, and it's a hassle because then it's potable water. We got to test it regularly. We've got to show proof to the state that it's potable water and all the stuff that goes along with supplying water from a well. But that's our only good solution. I did talk with Scott Kissick about because he's very concerned that since he owns this water district, that what happens if the hospital doesn't have water? And that, that happened a couple of times here, but only for a few hours. So he's even talked to me about the possibility of just setting a dedicated tank that would remain filled that could be for the hospital. The challenge is I don't know how long, we'd have to look into how long the water can be stored, even though it has been treated or would have passed through. I mean, so we're brainstorming different solutions to the water piece of NPC 5. That's all I'm going to say. We don't have a solution this is what we're going to go with.
Would our new generator accommodate the pumps over there for the water?
Yes, we would not have to put a generator over there, but we would have to get electrical there, and that's a pretty dang long run.
So if we're running a pipe across the street to us,
Yeah.
Can we run the conduit for the electrical at the
Well,
same
yeah,
time?
but I have to tie it all the way back to this electrical yard. We'll clear at this end of the.
Could be tied into the SNF.
No, there's not enough. There's not a large enough feed that would run those pumps.
Okay.
All right. I mean, again, obviously if that's the way we're going to go, we got to look at, okay, how are we going to get the power? I would probably take the power through the ER parking lot, down past maintenance shop, down past skilled nursing, and right straight across the street. But our challenge is that's not where the water needs to go. Okay. The water's got to tie in out front and over here. So we have two water.
Just
So
run an
you can still
extension
pick
cord
up at the
across
same
the
point
street.
and then run your water down.
Yeah. So
You can do that.
I might, yeah. So in other words, to get water over here, I probably have to take power and water there and water this way because we have a feed from Laurel that does the new buildings. Why somebody did this, I have no idea. But they made the water feeds for the new building out here on Laurel and the water feed for the acute care building and the central plant comes over here.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, it's the same pipe running around. I mean, they're fed from the same pipe. Anyway, so that's the NPC 5 for water we're still trying to come up with the best solution.
Can't run an extension cord across the cray.
We'll put one of those little rubber,
Yeah.
rubber ramps, wire running.
As long as you have a column next to it.
That's right, yes. Anyway, all right, so that's where we're at on the NPC stuff. And again, if we don't get the grant and we decide not to proceed, all this is just gonna go away also. But if we proceed with seismic, then we need to proceed with this. Dietary stove installation. Here's the letter closed in compliance for
It's
Mesa.
done.
Done,
We got one
finally.
thing done.
I finally got a project done. Amazing. Gene's right. I can't hardly get
What was the
anything
date on that, Bob?
done.
Okay, we got the new generator, we got the stove.
Yes,
This is good.
we're moving along. Yes. Well, thank goodness we had that generator with those PSPSs or we would evacuate the hospital.
Yeah.
We would
That
have
would
had
have
to.
awful.
Yes. And, right, so, skilled nursing building reclassification. Okay, so where that is, initial study's been done. We have to have final drawings with some minor changes to HCI by January 1 of 2026. Again, this kind of rolls into the whole NPC seismic project, separating that and making it not part of the hospital. So it's not a rush. They've reviewed our plans, showing our separations and stuff. But there's a few minor changes that'll probably have to happen because there's not swing joints on some of the utility lines. So that as the building flexes, I mean, they created it in a way that they took the pipe into the building and then they ran it horizontally this way for a ways and then teed and ran down this way, which allows for flexure. Now on the fire sprinkler line, it's got a nice, great big flex joint on it. So again, they're trying to evaluate exactly what we may need to do in order to separate it off. And the money spent would be well worth it, because otherwise it falls under the whole seismic stuff. We don't want that. Because it's not a building that is designed to meet the seismic criteria of SB 1955. It's a wood framed, one-story skilled nursing building. All right. So dietary cosmetic work and acute care restrooms are still on hold. We got to get past PSPS events and retail pharmacy, and that's my report on the projects.
The questions for Bob?
We're gonna talk about the pharmacy.
It's listed as item 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a comment about Bob. This guy, let me tell you, when all this power stuff was going down, he was working around the clock, bringing generators from his house, making sure that everything was up and running to the best of his ability. I know that he made like 2 or 3 trips just to keep the pharmacy up one day, just trying to keep things going. So I just think it's important that you guys realize that just busted his tail trying to keep everything.
This Bob here,
No,
No,
that was the week from hell.
I
That's all I can say.
think those are done. Shut ups.
I emailed that Anna girl today from
Yeah.
SCE to see if she had any comment on it. I hear solid
I had a
rumors
long
maybe,
call,
but
I had a long conversation with her yesterday afternoon. They are trying to put together another meeting with their key executives and us and some other people from the community, probably some legislative people as well, trying to talk about going forward. She said they have nothing on their calendar at this point for any other PSPSs this week.
Yeah.
They're taking it week by week right now. just-
Well, whenever a storm front goes through.
Right,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah, they're not saying that's never gonna happen again, but right now we've got a little bit of a reprieve in there, so. So they're using this time wisely to get everybody together, get as much input into the process and the problems that systems created.
Did you get any opportunity to talk to Kern County Public Health?
I have got a call and haven't heard back from them.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, so this is my opinion, is that it's helping to get all these people and Vince Fong and all these people involved. Until upper echelons of SCE decides to do it, we are going to continue to have PSPSs, because that's mandated by the ruling from the state of California for them to be able to do so for the safety of.
I think it's more fundamental than once SC realizes it's going to be more expensive to shut the power off than not, then they'll change their course.
Yeah, well, but it's, yeah, because money is a driving factor, and whether the money's paid out on a lawsuit or burning down town or
Or death
whatever.
that
Or
happens in the
death,
community.
But also, it's just like when we didn't have a generator, they were bringing us, for every PSPS event last year, they were bringing us generators. Then they got to looking at how much it costs, and they called Tim and I said, sorry, next PSPS, you don't get generators. And then nothing we could do about it. Luckily, it didn't implement. And by the time they did implement one, we had our generator system working. So until, nobody can dictate to Edison that they can't do PSPSs. That has to be their decision.
Well, Bob, thank you for keeping the pharmacy up and running. I know a lot of people out in the community that depended on that were really concerned and worried. So I'm glad we found at least some kind of a temporary solution for going through.
Yeah, and they were open this last weekend, people
Sunday
come to,
too.
yeah, Sunday too. And
Yeah.
they may be doing it again this weekend, trying to.
Can we sell
It's, uh,
generators out of there?
Business.
The generators that I brought in for the clinic, 2 generators, transfer switches, costing us about $11,000. That is substantially cheaper than we were paying per generator with Quinn Cat
That's for
when we
sure.
had the one out
Yeah.
here. That was costing us, between that and the transfer switch, was costing us 40, 60, about $8,000 a month. So I got a better deal out of HERC. And so the 2 generators and 2 transfer switches, about $11,000 a month. Now, those are temporary. That will, in a little bit, we'll talk about permanent solution.
Solution.
Okay. So Shirley, you had a question?
I did. I just wanted to comment. Bob and Tim had made a recommendation to this board years ago of when we replace the generator, we need to hook everything up. So it all functions under the generator. The air conditioning, the kitchen, the skilled facility, everything. And now we did that. And what a good, what a,
Yeah.
you were,
After.
this campus is fully functioning.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
It's a shining star in the community
Yeah.
during a PSP, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's only because our lights are on.
Yeah.
And I would just wanted to thank you for those recommendations, because I think that
Yeah.
paid off this week and into the future.
Yes, because,
I think if we didn't do that, this would be a disaster.
because we can't cook food. We can't
Exactly.
Do anything, you know. Now, I have a little challenging thing. There's a code requirement by HCI that every electrical outlet that is on emergency power has to be marked in red and has to have a label as to what the panel speed is.
Got a label on that.
So now I get to go around through hundreds of electrical outlets, change them to red covers, put on there what panel they're fed from, et cetera.
Can't just spray paint them red.
It's probably.
Well, the red covers aren't that, I'm not gonna change out the actual outlet because that gets really expensive. Hospital grade outlets are outrageously expensive. But the covers are inexpensive. So, so that I still have to do. I didn't put that into the contract with the contractor because it would have cost us an absolute fortune. Yeah. But yes, it's working and it's working well. The only challenge is when the power goes down, the chiller plant goes down. And so we have to go in and we have to reset because the power glitch shuts the chiller off and it doesn't auto restart.
Okay.
So, but it's fine to work on. Okay.
All right. The next item is invoices for approval. This is an action item.
Can I make a motion? I've looked at them that we accept them.
Okay, moved by Director Parks. It's been seconded by Director Clerk. Is there any discussion?
It's this generator project can be totally finished. We could,
Probably another couple of months, 3 months at the max, probably. And that cost is here. So as you can see, the invoice for this month went way down from the last one. The last one was like 123,000.
Yeah.
Now we're down to 27,550. If you want to know what the emergency generator project is still going to cost us in an outlay of cash, because we have our 5% retention pay. And then if you approve the last change order, which is coming up on the agenda, the amount of money that we will be paying out on the generator project is $399,987.70.
4 million.
Okay.
Then we started talking about 1.2.
I know.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know,
Actually,
my crystal ball estimator is broken.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
3.4 total.
I think it's in that neighborhood. I haven't totaled it up yet. I didn't total that. I just got this number because you had asked for budgets for next year. For this coming year. I haven't sat down and totaled out the exact cost of the entire project. I can do it in about 10 minutes, but
Trying to figure out what the appreciation of the budget.
well, yeah, because we'll need to.
It'd be that.
It'd be 200 grand
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
extra appreciation. Get the bottom
and
line.
it'll depreciate probably over, I'm guessing we can look it up.
27 and a half.
I'm going to talk about the pharmacy.
Okay, so the pharmacy's moving steadily ahead. My guy's down there working every day. Because we're cutting, as you know, we're cutting 3 holes through the wall. And we have a short little wall to build. And, but it's mainly just time consuming work. Because of all this PSPS stuff, I have lost an entire week and a half on the designing of the cabinets and all that kind of stuff. I have it almost all done. As far as, you know, the layout of where each workstation will be and all, because it's just cabinets. We just set cabinets in place, set a counter on them to bring down the relocated power. Because we have plenty of circuits in there. It's just moving them to where they need to be and running the data line. So it's looking good right now. I got to do some dump runs. I've got debris in there from opening up the openings in the walls. And so we have a lot of work to do, but it's going well. I know they went and walked through there and now they want to make several changes and you and I may discuss that before I tell Sue what she's going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and John.
Well, yeah, because what she's asking is for the waiting room to be bigger so she has more retail space. The problem is that if I did shift that wall, that now the whole back section where they do all the putting the pills together doesn't work. So yeah, that has to work. The amount of retail space is going to be whatever she gets.
And it's gonna be 2 or 3 times what she's got now.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know that the retail really is going to make or break the financial.
I know, I'm just bringing that up because it's like, oh, could you move this wall and, you know, give me more. It's like, well, no, because you want to lose a station for somebody to fill and somebody to take orders.
Yeah.
No.
Processing prescriptions.
Is the number one criteria. So that's just something we need to all be on the same page with and discuss with her that this is where it's at.
She wanted to move the wall out much, a foot or two.
I'm not sure. I wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole
I
lot.
think that's what Nathan told me.
But the problem is then the walking space around the counter between the both sides of that counter gets too narrow.
We just need to get everybody.
And it
down there
can't shift
to
this
take a
way
look at it.
because there's the refrigerators and all
We
these
can do
things. Yeah, I mean, it's just, the design can't change. The retail space is the retail space. And there will be 3 times what she's got.
Like a typical architect.
Just one of the fun parts of my job is telling people no, getting them to accept. So, anyway, so it's looking good. I'm pretty happy with the design. You know, the construction is relatively minimal. That's the neat thing. We were able to utilize almost every wall that's in there. And so it's just a matter of getting it cleaned up, getting the carpet laid, getting it ready to move in.
So that's one thing you're outsourcing is the carpet.
Yeah.
Put all that stuff in the, so now we.
Well, that needs plumbing too, you're doing.
Well, yeah, I have some minor plumbing to do in the bathroom.
Making one bathroom out of those 2 at the back.
No, I'm just enlarging one. I'm just moving the wall over a couple of feet so that it meets ADA.
So
When will we move in?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. I said I was going to try and accomplish it in 3 months, and we're about a month into that.
Still think it'd take 2 months?
You want to come and help?
I said if I could get 3 or 4 more guys.
If I had I would say we could do it in a month and a half.
Well, it might pay to get some extra help.
If I had 10 people.
then we go. put
Well, you
on-
know, that's the issue is we've been trying to balance that $25,000.
See, yeah, I have that restriction that I can't exceed 25,000, so I have to be very, very careful how I spend the money. I can't just hire a bunch of people and have them tripping over each other and then I exceed that dollar amount and I ain't going to jail to build a pharmacy.
That's me telling people no. Thank you to accept it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're doing the best we can with what we've got. It's still a very short time frame. Because we were looking at putting a new building over next door and that was going to take a year. Yeah. And cost $1 million.
Is there any word on Rite Aid?
Yeah, July the 8th was last word I heard.
Yeah.
Door was approximately the 8th.
Now, the other thing that Catherine shared with us this morning is those fixtures are all up for sale down there.
Yeah.
They're selling them by the, like, so much a foot.
So much a foot, yeah.
So we
And they have
should
to
get
get
out and
caps
look.
and you know, all the lighting
Yeah,
and
they
all
also have
that.
30% off liquor and ice cream.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that was my.
That'll get the work done faster.
Yeah.
No, it was different.
Well, I mean, I've been in there many, many times and I was trying to picture, can I make those fixtures work? I need to go in and look at them closer as to whether we could make them work for our retail space. I mean, I can't use any of it in the back because those are specific to pharmacists where they have special drawers for the bins of vials and, you know, et cetera. And we can't, anyway, so we can't wait on the pharmacy closing and maybe getting what they have in there, because I think almost everything they have in there is built in other than their shelves. But some of those might work out in space. So
Yeah,
I'll take a look at it.
just thought, well, I went in there, so I thought I'd check it out.
It's just unfortunate that
But they're really slowing down on filling their prescriptions, prescriptions.
They apparently said something about that their inventory is not being replenished. So
No,
they said
and
it's gonna
they're-
be limited.
Anybody that goes up, they're explaining, have you found a new pharmacist
Who's that, Friday?
at Rite Aid?
Okay.
And do you want us to, find you somewhere else to have your automated refills done? Because I'm like, no, just stop it. So. It might usually go through, my mail anyway, after a month.
Yeah, we got 300 new patients this week. Right, mostly from there.
Yeah.
I tried to renew the prescription I have a diabetic cat. So I tried to renew my prescription through Rite Aid and it got transferred out to here. So when I was down here this morning, working with pharmacists on stuff for later, they go, Sudie goes, oh, we got your prescription for your cat. So it's like, cool. Yeah. Everybody needs a diabetic cat. Anyway, all right. So any other questions on the pharmacy?
Questions about the pharmacy? The next item this is an action item, page 20 through 22. This is a JTS order.
Approve this presented.
So
Obviously, we need power, so.
So obviously you approved the cost to draw, the architect to draw the change order. The change order's been approved. The contractors put a cost to installing a breaker, pulling the wire through multiple pull boxes all the way over to the shop and setting a disconnect at the shop, and the cost of that is $83,300.
Why do you need it there?
You want to come and work in the shop with a swamp cooler when it's 106?
So you use a small air conditioner.
If we have right now I'm on a 50 amp breaker out of the ER for the whole building. And so, when I weld, all the lights go dim and stuff, and we can't run an air conditioner. So by running a new electrical feed to the shop, then we can down the road, we can place an air conditioner and stuff.
That's still so expensive. Man,
I know.
you've got a guy there that could. do that
77 to the
Well,
ER.
in one
Understood that this is to get the power to the shop. I didn't have them take it all the way in and do the air conditioning and all that stuff. It would be a huge amount more. Because this has to go on the generator project, it has to be bid by the general contractor. Because I can't do it outside the scope, et cetera. Because yes, it's less than 25 grand. It's almost a maintenance thing, but because we're under an open permit with HCI for the generator project, that additional scope of work has to be done by the general contractor legally.
And it's so painful to look at that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, but I would hate to see us pay to do the plans and then not do the work.
So we have a motion by Director Clark. Is there a second?
Second.
By Director Elliott. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? And this next one is the emergency generator.
Okay, so what obviously, we've discussed, we would like to permanently have generators on our clinic. On the new pharmacy, which also John and Tim and I discussed, if we're gonna do the new pharmacy, why not do the rest of the building?
Yeah.
Because that
So
way
they can
then
continue to work.
we can continue to send out the bills.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise now they're all going home. And they're trying to come in on Sundays if the power's back on and get their work done. So we're looking at powering the entire building. Fortunately, that building was built in the 70s. And I have 6 electrical services on the back because they had one for every suite and then one additional one for who knows what. 2 of them are dead. And so I'm running off of 4 electrical services. Each one of them's 100 amp. And so what we will have to do is we'll probably have to have Edison bring in an entire new feed that just feeds the whole building. And that way then we can appropriately tie it to a transfer switch and a generator. So I got some initial costs. So just the cost of the generator and transfer switch for the admin building will be $64,000 to purchase the generator and transfer switch.
That ain't bad.
Not too bad.
Can you put the order for the transfer switch in now, since it takes about a year for them to make it?
Well, hopefully these small ones will get a little quicker, but obviously, if you want, then I can get official quotes to get this stuff ordered. Now, what will have to happen is step two is I got to hire an architect and an engineer, and it probably wouldn't be Michael Ryan because he's buried, because he's losing his right-hand guy. So we would get a local architect and engineer to draw plans for Kern County. And then the generator and the plans need to be submitted to Air Pollution Control District to get a permit to install a permanently mounted generator. These generators are designed to meet the criteria. So, and then once you do all of that and you get permission to proceed, obviously we have to hire somebody to pour a concrete pad and do some electrical work. And then, so I would guess that 64,000 will probably double by the time you hire the architect, draw the plans, permits, and the construction work, maybe triple. The construction work is what I don't even know how to guess, because obviously it falls into the prevailing wage category, which always just blows me out of the water on how expensive they come in. So you're probably talking, like you said, triple that.
200,000.
So to do that building. And then the generator for the clinic is actually less expensive because it's not as big a building. So, and it's on 120, 208 3-phase. And so that generator and transfer switch is 55,000. So again, if we tripled that, we're talking about 170,000.
Or if you don't do anything, then what's it cost us to be shut down?
Yeah, it's really not even worth it.
There's the challenge, and my crystal ball on PSPSs is nowhere.
They're not going anywhere until these change.
Well, what about the alternatives, like putting a battery down there and putting solar on the roof?
The batteries, okay, so it's a great system. You have to size the batteries for how many hours you think it's going to take. And running air conditioning systems is a heavy load. We have three air conditioners on that building, the clinic building. We have 5 on, 6 of them down here. So it would be a massive battery system. And my concern with battery systems is battery's life is probably 12 years, yeah, 12 to 15 years. That would be if you're lucky. So then you have to get to replace them. Whereas a generator, you're going to get 30 years out of that generator.
Where would you put the generator?
Well, it's easy at the clinic, behind the clinic. Down here, we're a little tighter on space.
Could it go in the roof? How heavy is it?
Now they're too heavy. And that's a clear span truss. The only bearing walls on that entire building are the front wall and the back wall.
Put it 4 doors down. Just
You could brace it. I mean,
On that roof.
running underground.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, more than likely, we would relocate the propane tank, and then it would sit somewhere on that side, on the Red Rooster side of the building. That's about the only spot we got.
that's gonna be propane or diesel.
I would have to ask if that's available. What they proposed is a diesel generator, and it's got a 24-hour belly tank. And so it has enough fuel to run 24 hours. And
How do you fill it up?
there's a service, I've already arranging with a service out of Bakersfield where they just come up with a truck and they just put a hose in there and fill it.
Every 24 hours.
If your shutoffs go longer than that, yes. Otherwise, you're looking at a big above ground tank, which, that gets expensive. And then there's all the requirements of fuel tanks, storage fuel tanks that you got to meet with the state of California, Kern County. I'd go through it every month with 10,000 gallon underground tank here. So there's no wonderful solution. I mean, if we had a huge field beside it, we could just put up a whole bunch of solar panels. But again, solar panels last 17 years and your batteries last 12 to 15. And so it's expendable items. So generators actually, well, you'll get more life out of it. It'll cost you probably less in the long.
Would we be cheaper just to use the portable once in a while, like you do? If we need it, it's getting better.
Well, the challenge is how quick can you get them here? Because we don't get much warning on the PSPSs. We get a few hours. And one of these generators came out of LA and one of these generators came out of Bakersfield.
How much does the portable one cost?
Which is what?
How much would a portable one cost?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know if it sits on your site for more than 1 year, you have to file with air pollution, and it becomes a permanent installation. So you can't operate under the permit for a portable.
Would our site, would it be here or there?
It would be there. I mean, if I hooked up to it and towed it around, I guess, might get around that.
Well, if you only took it there when you need it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the criteria for what it would take to be just to purchase portables.
Because they're,
I know, it's just,
they could
I
almost.
haven't had a lot of spare time in the last
They could
couple of
almost
weeks.
work a half a day in the offices there, not the
Yeah.
pharmacy. Because it doesn't get too hot
Yeah.
until later.
And we would have to have the ability to quickly disconnect it and reattach it, which can be done. It's large flexible cables that plug in and twist lock, one for each phase plus a ground and a neutral.
So when it's all said and done, 200,000 to 500,000 probably isn't going to be unrealistic.
Right.
Do we
Yes.
have the money for that? John, Tim?
We have the money, like earmarked for other things probably right now.
Yeah, but what's it gonna cost us if they're shut down?
That's the
Right,
point.
that's-
Because
Yeah.
the other thing is the employees are getting disgruntled because they're using the PTO. They don't want to use the PTO. They don't have to.
They get sent home, they have to use their
Right.
It's
vacation
just a
time.
whole separate item. Now we're talking about
Is
lost
that what
revenue.
we're doing?
Right, so it's revenue. My bills aren't going out. We're not.
The bills, our AR is going to go up.
Yes.
Yeah, every
Absolutely.
day you lose 100 visits.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just.
Andrews County.
We're making them use the PTO when we send them home.
Yep.
That's not. I would
Well,
think
we
it's
haven't
right.
discussed that yet really, but
Well, that's what we're currently
currently
doing.
doing, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
they have the option of going home without pay or PTO, right?
Right.
So,
We're finding out the work site.
Workstations and the facility that we offer to them.
We have moved some of them over here, but we can't move everybody.
You move a bunch of people.
A whole
over here.
bunch. And it's something we could consider in other ways too. We know these are gonna happen and we need to create temporary workstations in various areas. We can figure that out.
Could do 9 in the classroom alone.
We have surgery.
what would
too.
be the cost if we just paid them? I mean, we're putting them out. They're coming into work.
well, you're trying to give more money out?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep after employees. I mean, it's.
I can quantify it for you if you want to. And
It's wrong
It's-
to,
we probably had employees, 20 employees, maybe 50 hours or so. 1,000 hours. And just average rate of $30 maybe or so, $3,000.
I don't know.
More than that,
I don't think,
30,000, I'm sorry, 30,000.
yeah, I don't think we should put them out. Will our insurance cover that?
It's a good question. I haven't asked them, but you have.
Deductible is.
Business at risk.
This
You're
is
not
That's
gonna
not something that we
have-
did, that's for sure, you're
You're not
right.
gonna have ducking and wait
Good
for
point.
maybe 2 days.
Can we invoice Edison?
Should
We
we
can-
should do it for the.
We should just
Generator and
deduct it from
everything.
our electric bill.
Before you
They're-
don't. pay
they're-
them, see if it's covered.
Power's turned off. You're not getting billed for it anyway, so.
He chose
Narrow-minded.
Well, I can pay-
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
They have a monopoly to provide power
Right.
and they're not providing
Sure, it's
power.
right.
There should be a copyright on it.
Actually, sure.
It's gonna be a public copy.
yeah, so I mean, if you want, I will proceed. I mean, it doesn't take an action, but I can proceed with getting further into this, putting permanent generators in, because obviously it's going to take time. I mean, I got to contact, say, the architect that we used for drawing the plans for the admin building, and see if they would be willing to tackle that and give me a price.
I think it needs to be explored.
let's at least, I guess I'll make a motion to at least take this as far as getting the architecture and engineering work done. And then we'll see where the power shut-offs are, as
Yeah, if
stands
they said
change.
we're not gonna do PSPSs anymore, we don't really need to put all these generators in.
So let's take it to, let's get the architecture and
Yeah.
engineering work done.
I want to correct you on that. Bottom line is, it's not just the PSPS. You have issues where cars hit poles, you lose power for extended periods of time. So no matter what, you still gotta have some backup.
It's still be good
Just
to have the
not-
backup.
It's ideal to have that.
Yes.
Yes.
Could we have one backup that maybe only one of them would go out, one building?
Only if it was a portable generator.
They're trying to fix it to where they've got better shut-off system.
Yeah.
To where.
Well, I'm not suggesting we spend a bunch of money right now, but let me take this a little further. Let me find an architect and engineer who's willing to tackle it. And, so, and what that cost would be. And, I can discuss with them if these are available on propane. The problem is we need a much larger propane tank would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It burns the hell out of propane.
yeah, there's the problem. And that, in fact, the one I'm putting on my house is gonna be on propane. The little one down here that we have just to power the hub that boosts our signal over to retail so the computers work. We have on propane, and it's surprising how much more fuel it goes through in gallons of propane than it does in gallons of gasoline.
Dollars an hour.
Yeah.
So it's more expensive for
So,
propane or
yeah,
diesel?
well, diesel will be cheaper than propane. For cost standpoint.
I'm gonna get one, the guy says, I got a 250-gallon tank. You're gonna need a bigger tank.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So we have a motion by Director Elliott. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Or,
Yeah, he second,
yeah,
yeah.
So this is to proceed with at least getting costs from the architect or actually moving
We're
forward.
bringing us the bids on the architects.
Okay,
Yeah.
bids on the architect and finalized costing on because, and the cut sheets they sent me on the generators, obviously they would be in weatherproof housings and stuff, but these are the specifications on the two generators. Yeah, they're recommending.
Super.
any other discussion or? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Passes. And with that, we are adjourned at 2:51.
One last thing.
Uh,
I want to introduce Monica Alexander.
Nice meeting you.
This is my new right-hand person to hopefully get this kind of stuff done.
Perfect.
Can I ask you a question also now?
Yeah.
That you mentioned that. Are you gonna be available to hang around for a while? With change of,
Need to cut.
managers, we thought you might not be as manageable.
And I don't like this guy.
So you're planning on hanging around a little bit.
For a while.
Okay, cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nothing's changed.
Okay,
Perspective
Cool.
of what we've discussed at this point. I mean, I'm disappointed to see Tim leave.
Yeah.
But, I still can't afford to retire.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Either.
Yeah.
You still have to think those that want to get that.
Yeah, I want to get the seismic project done. It was 10 years ago to do that. And so
It'd be 97 years.
I may be.